listening to the Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Vacula, here to help you travel the world at next to no cost with credit card points, miles, benefits, and rewards. Make money, save money, and take advantage of great deals. Today's episode features special guest Taylor Thomas, who chats with me about gift card reselling and credit cards. Taylor Thomas is originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. He first got into credit cards, miles, and points in 2015 and began manufactured spending in 2019. In April 2020, Taylor launched his group QCGC, where he posts gift card deals and buys gift cards from members to give them even more credit card spending opportunities. QCGC has continued to grow over the past 3 years and has around 850 members on Telegram. Before today's discussion, I have 2 quick show notes. I host monthly in-person meetups in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania with the group Greater Philadelphia Travel, Credit Miles and Points. Find more information at meetup.com/Philly Miles and Points. I'll also present at the upcoming conference Zorkfest, which will include social events and sessions educating about miles, points, and gambling. Find more information at zorkfest.com, that's ZORKFEST.com. And stay tuned for an upcoming episode with the event host, Michael Trager, who will chat with me about the event taking place in Lake Tahoe on October 13th, 14th, and 15th, 2023. Now, on with today's episode with special guest Taylor Thomas. All right, I'm here today with Taylor Thomas. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, we met in person a few months ago at my meetup group, Greater Philadelphia Travel, and I've known you for quite a while, selling gift cards to you online, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to record a conversation here and talk about gift card reselling and credit cards.
Yeah, man, I really enjoyed the meetup, and hopefully I can make it back up there at some point, maybe by the end of the year, if not next year.
Yeah, we had about a dozen people show for that, lots of general conversation, and of course you were the guest speaker, so we spoke mostly about the gift cards angle for credit cards. Good. And you've been running WhatsApp and Telegram groups, QCGC, that's Queen City Gift Cards, where you post offers to buy gift cards. For those interested in gift card reselling, how does one get started? How do they know what cards to buy?
We primarily send out the deals through the Telegram group. If you haven't used Telegram before, it's pretty similar to WhatsApp. Since we currently, I'm working on an actual website, so that in the future we can just have an easy URL to go to. But for now, we're still just using the Telegram invite links for people to join. So maybe we can just include those links somewhere that's easily accessible for anyone listening to this. Yeah, we send out all the posts through there. There's also a group chat where you can ask questions if you have any questions about any particular deals. And either myself, someone from my team, or one of the other group members will be able to respond to any questions in there.
Yes, typically there's a deal, like maybe a local grocery store chain will say, hey, we're offering 10% off or $10 back in points on $100 gift cards. And you'll say, hey, I'm willing to buy maybe Home Depot for 92.5%. So there are times where there's a promotion. We can buy the gift cards with credit, sell the cards to you, so we're not losing money. Some people think, oh, well, I'm just going to be losing money. If I'm just going to buy a Best Buy gift card at Best Buy and sell it to you for certain percentage, then I'm just going to lose money, but that's not what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously you want to ensure that you're actually participating when there's deals going on. Because obviously if you were to buy it at face value, that wouldn't really make any sense. But I mean, in the group, like I said, we send out the posts with the new deals, and with each post, we make sure to include instructions how the deal works, as well as a reservation sheet where you can actually reserve capacity to send to us. And typically, we post articles from gcgalore.com for each deal. And within those, they typically do a really good job of explaining how the deal works in those articles themselves. So just make sure whenever you see those posts to read thoroughly all the different details and instructions.
Yeah, Stephen Pepper from GC Galore was a past guest on the show. He does a really good job explaining what's going on. Oh, this deal expires at a certain time. This is how you do it. These are some credit cards that you can use. Like, for example, if you're going to a grocery store, people might want to use the Amex Gold card getting 4X membership rewards. So you want to be sure to take advantage of those little things because all the edges add up. And what does the edge usually look like for gift card deals? Even if some of the deals are break even, is it still worth doing it?
At the end of the day, gift card deals are just a really good way to add additional spend on onto your cards that you wouldn't really have otherwise. Because at a certain point, relying on your organic spend, you're going to run out, of capacity there. So having these avenues to buy gift cards and resell them and basically just move money in a circle and do manufacturer spending, it's really just a volume game and doing as much volume as you can. A break-even deal can totally make sense if you can do, a few $1,000s in one trip to the grocery store. If you're doing $3,000 and you're getting 4x or even 3x on City Premier, you're looking at, maybe on average $100 ROI on that time spent. So, it really just depends on the deal. Wise to take everything on a deal-by-deal basis and just evaluate the actual ROI on each deal. Because, there might be even some deals that are lower volume, but there's a lot more profit there as far as the margin. So, I think it just depends on each deal for people.
Yeah, sometimes I'll see offers for maybe Rite Aid, drugstore or pharmacy store kind of in this area. And it's like, I'm not going to take a 15-minute detour to Rite Aid to buy a gift card and get store credit when I have no idea what I'm going to do with the store credit. But if I can go to the local grocery store that I'm going to anyway to buy groceries that's right next to Panera that I'm going to almost every day, that's in the same parking lot. And maybe I'm in the store for about 5 minutes. And if I can buy maybe $1,500 or $2,000 worth of cards at maybe a 5-6% edge, or sometimes a lot better, we'll get into some of the better deals later on, then it's definitely worth it. Especially if working on a new card, as you were saying, as some of these new card offers will say things like, hey, spend $5,000 in 3 months and we'll give you bonus $700 cash back or 75,000 points, whatever the offer has to be. So working on these minimum spend new member offer goals can be quite lucrative.
Yeah, definitely with the when you're getting sign-up bonuses, those are probably going to be the highest ROI spend that you're going to do because, you might be getting 10x back, on what you're spending in some of those situations. So
yeah, and some of the deals online. So it's like, oh, look, I got home at 10 o'clock and I can click a few buttons on my computer and order from some online retailers like PayPal Digital Gifts or My Gift Cards Plus, Newegg, many of these other retailers, where I don't even have to go in a store and deal with cashiers and wait in lines or park or drive or anything. I could just get them from home.
Yep.
And how much do you think people can do on average per month?
That normally depends on a few different things. So obviously one is just where you're located geographically, so which city you live in. And there are a few good options for grocery store deals. So you've got Kroger, Meijer, Giant up in the Northeast. There's also Hy-Vee in the Midwest. So it depends a lot on just where you're located and, as well as how often these deals are coming around, how much you have available total in credit lines, and also which credit card you actually have to take advantage of certain bonus categories. But aside from all that, you can kind of do as little or as much as you want. We have members that do anywhere from, around $1,000 per month up to people who are doing like $50,000 or more on a month-to-month basis. But it definitely helps. Some of those people are doing, for example, the Kroger deals where we're able to buy gift cards and fuel points together. Those, a lot of times it's easy to do a few $1,000s in a single transaction. And then some people, people might go to, different Kroger locations, just driving around for a few hours throughout the day. Pretty doable to do, maybe $20,000 or more in a single day with those. So it depends on a lot of factors, but anyone who's new and gets in the group, like just pay attention to the deals and see which deals are coming out that are relevant for you based on where you're located at.
Yeah, some people get intimidated. They think, oh, well, I don't want to make this into a full-time job, so I'm not going to do it. But I tell people, well, you can just start small and build up as it's comfortable for you if you have more time. Some people are in this just for the sign-up bonuses. They're not going to do the break-even deals. They're not even going to go in store in some cases, or they're just going to wait for the bigger deals. So your level of involvement is definitely up to you.
And for anyone who feels like it's a little overwhelming or seems really complicated, I would suggest just starting out with one deal, like just doing one first and maybe picking something that's fairly easy, fairly simple. So something like, you mentioned PayPal Digital Gifts and My Gift Cards Plus and Newegg deals where it's like, okay, there's this $50 gift card for whatever brand, let's say Adidas or Carter's or something like that. Those are some recent examples I've seen. $50 gift card for $40, and you buy it online, and there's no grocery store points or fuel points involved with that you have to use yourself or resell. Those are typically pretty easy, pretty simple, and obviously low spend as well for anyone who's feels nervous about it. So those are the types of deals that might be good for people who are starting out and who feel kind of intimidated by the whole idea of everything. We also, like I mentioned, we try to do our best with providing all the relevant details and instructions for each deal, as well as including the gcgalore.com articles for each deal, which also go into detail about how each deal works. I mean, we're also working on some onboarding materials for people just to go over not only just each specific deal, but the whole process of how everything works, from monitoring the Telegram group to see the new deals and submitting gift cards on their sheet and things like that. So hopefully within the next several weeks we'll have that ready and live for people to use. I think overall, if you start out small, as time goes on, you'll get the hang of it and get more accustomed to how everything works.
Yeah, maybe just start with one deal, as you mentioned, one local store, one online merchant, and just take your time with it. Maybe ask a few questions here and there if you're new. And yeah, over time, I think with just a little bit of organization, a little bit of patience, I think it's not too difficult to get started with. And organization is important. How do you suggest people keep track of cards and deals?
Yeah, so I mean, the main thing we do to help people keep track of that is just with the submission template sheet that we have. So basically, when people submit gift cards to us, we do it all through Google Sheets currently. That might change at some point in the future if we actually build a submission portal or website. But currently, it's all done through Google Sheets. And essentially, we have a submission template sheet that each member will make a copy of, and then they'll use their own copy of that sheet to submit the card. So, but just using that is a really good way of keeping track of the cards that you submit to us, as well as any upcoming payments you have and any payments we've already made to you. So just having a standardized template for that, as opposed to people just sending us cards through email and having to create their own tracking sheet, is one of the main tools that we provide to help people track that stuff. Store your physical gift cards properly, just because we require each member to hold on to the physical gift cards for a year, for 365 days after submitting them to us. And that's just in case within that time frame we have any customers coming back saying that a gift card was invalid or had insufficient funds or was blocked or had any kind of issue like that. So it is important to store your gift cards properly and be organized with that, in case in case you submit a card to us and we come back 3 months later and say, hey, we need you to check on this card, it's invalid, or a customer said it doesn't have money on it. And we're actually in the onboarding material that I'm working on putting together, I'm gonna have a guide on that as well. But yeah, I mean, most people use a shoebox or something to store the cards in. We'll have something set up for that as far as best practices and some visual examples of what some people do.
Yeah, and with the digital cards, it's easy because you just have an online record. You're able to copy paste the codes to a spreadsheet. But with the physicals, there's some transcription that you have to just type the numbers from the cards. Some of them are easier than others, like the Apple gift cards have the numbers and letters for some reason. Some of the cards have spaces, some of them don't. So what I usually do is I use a finger or an index card to cover a few digits at a time and just take my time with the inputting. Or there's some barcode scanner apps out there.
Like the barcode scanner is actually the barcode, as opposed to the OCR text recognition tools that are out there. The barcode scanners themselves are typically reliable because the barcode just corresponds to the actual gift card number. So I know a lot of people who use those, and I mean there are some examples of brands that doesn't really work with. So you mentioned Apple. Is a barcode on those, but it doesn't correspond to the actual redemption code that we need. The 16, I think it's either 15 or 16 digit alphanumerical string of characters there. But yeah, I mean, for most of the brands, so Home Depot, Best Buy, Nike, Lululemons, most of the brands that we buy. The barcode scanners will work perfectly fine for importing the actual gift card number into the spreadsheet. You still have to scratch off the pin and put that in manually, but if you can just scan the barcode and it populates the cell with the 16-digit gift card number, and then that's taken care of, and it's accurate, helps to avoid typo errors, also, and just save you time and mental energy, and you can just put in the pin itself manually. That helps out a lot. So I would definitely recommend people to get one of those if they're getting started and they plan on doing a lot of volume with physical gift cards in store, because it definitely helps to save time.
Yep, and you usually set up ACH for payment, especially for the larger payments. So how does that work? How do people get paid?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, we do ACH payments for the majority of the payments that we send out. So people would just, in their submission sheet, there's a tab called payment info. And it has all the fields indicated where you need to put in certain data. So like your bank account, like the routing and account number, the actual name on the account, the mailing address, the email address, all that stuff we need to actually input into our bank from our end and set you up as a vendor from there. And then, yeah, like you said, most of the payments we send out via ACH. So it just goes directly from our bank to yours, just to make it easy. There are some cases where if the payment is, or if the payment amount is super small, like if it's $300 or something, we might use Venmo or Cash App or Zelle, just because all those are free, and we can avoid the ACH fees that way. But the majority are ACH, and that just makes it easier for us and the people receiving the payments.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, especially if you're using zero APR intro offers, especially on business cards. Well, okay, you have a deal, the payment terms are 15 days, 20 days, whatever it is. And now you can use your line of credit to basically convert it to cash with deals like this, and then use that money to invest or earn interest on that if it's in a high yield checking account. Like recently I signed up for Juno, Juno, which is giving 5% APY in a checking account, which is really interesting. I imagine most people get zero or maybe a very low amount in their checking account. So there's an interesting cash flow dynamic that's a bonus of doing this gift card reselling.
And I think if you find a situation that actually is profitable and makes sense with that, then that's an interesting idea and something you could do. I feel like most people probably aren't doing that. They're probably just using, like you mentioned, the Amex Gold card or maybe City Premier, for 3X at grocery stores, or even deals where there's not really a bonus category multiplier involved, maybe like City Double Cash, stuff like that. And I'm assuming people are just trying to get the most cash back they can or points on their cards and just churning it and turning it around as quickly as they can.
Yeah, sometimes the deals are so good that we just need to push volume. Like we'll talk about a giant deal that was recent that was giving lots and lots of gas points. And it's like, yeah, I've used my credit limits on the major bonusing cards, but now I'm going to go ahead and use other ones. Even though I'm not getting the 4X, well, I'm still getting a good return and some other benefits possible.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, whenever you can combine those really good bonus cards, bonus category credit cards with, grocery store deals, or whatever it is, that's preferable. But like you said, if you've maxed that out, there might still be deals where it's still really profitable to do. So you mentioned Giant, and I mean, Giant does all types of different deals for different brands and different earning rates. But, I know like the first one that I think of is the Adidas ones, where they do 10X on Adidas, which at least in Pennsylvania, where you're at, as I understand it, that essentially equates to 25% back, in gas savings. And even though I'd be buying the cards at around, let's say, 12% below cost, you end up coming out ahead 13% if you're using those points on gas yourself. The only downside to that specifically, unless I can at some point start buying and reselling the Giant gas points, is that which I would love to do, is that it's just hard for each individual to actually scale those types of deals where you have to actually use either fuel points or grocery store rewards to make it worth it, unless you have friends you can resell them to. I know.
Yep. Some people might have some friends.
But, yeah. Yeah. But Yeah, that's one example. The Kroger fuel points deals are pretty consistent as well, and is at this point the majority of the volume that we do. There's sometimes some saturation with those. The deals might end up being like 1% below cost for people, just because there's so much demand and saturation. But yeah, if you're using, Amex Gold, City Premier, there's probably even other options out there. You're still coming out ahead. So, but like I mentioned earlier, I mean, it just depends on the deal, depends on your proximity to, some of these different stores and how many you have around you and how much volume you can do.
And on those new cards working towards sign-up bonuses, usually what I'll do is split tender. I'll say, okay, I'll put $299.76 on a brand new card, because if I go in and shoving it in their face and buying like $3,000 in gift cards, it's not going to look like real spend, and I probably won't get credit for that spend working toward a sign-up bonus with many issuers. So we've heard it a lot in this space that this is more of a marathon and not a race. So yeah, you can hammer those seasoned cards in most cases. But with the newer cards, it's helpful to be more careful on that.
Yeah, I mean, I know even with season cards, people do stuff just to avoid like those round number purchases. So instead of having, purchase for $1,000 even on a card, I know some people will, like at Kroger, for example, they'll throw in a banana or two or whatever to make it like $1,000.27. Just to, at the very least, prevent the credit card issuers like algorithm for checking for fraud and just weird looking transactions. I know people do that. So there's, I've heard people using bananas, limes, like whatever, just to add a few cents, onto the transaction, just to make it look kind of like a normal grocery purchase. And I even remember times, I think this was back in 2020, when the Best Buy rates were crazy, and I was driving around to all the Krogers and Harris Teeters, and at one point I just had like a big old batch of bananas sitting in the passenger seat of my car, which is pretty funny. So yeah, I mean, the stuff that people do to make this hobby work and avoid issues with the credit card issuers.
Yeah, the giant PA registers are very interesting, because if you do a larger transaction, there'll be a prompt on the screen that will say something like, 1,500, is this amount correct? Yes or no? You could hit the no button and say what amount you want. So you don't even have to ask the cashier to designate a certain amount, or they'll claim like, oh, you can't do that. Like sometimes cashiers make up rules that don't really exist, and you'll hear like different rules from different people in the same store. So just have to have a little bit of patience with it, and maybe try to explain things in some way if they're being too unreasonable. But unfortunately, we won't have the biggest wins all the time. If they're going to say like, oh, the limit today on cards, you can only get 2 per person. It's like, wait, I thought the flyer said the limit was 2,000. I'm like, oh, well, sometimes there's a little bit of that.
I mean, I remember when I did some of the Target in-store deals where you buy Apple gift cards and get some, Target gift cards for free. I mean, most of the time I would just do it at self-checkout, so no one would bother me, right? I didn't have to, ask any cashiers for like what amount I could do. But a couple of times I tried just going to customer service. Yeah, they just threw out random numbers. I was like, how much can I do? And they're like, the maximum you can do is $400. And I'm like, based on what? Like, where does it say that anyway? They were like, that's just the limit. That's what they told us. And I go to a different store, and they said, oh, yeah, the limit's $800. And I'm like, what? It's like arbitrary limits being thrown around. But then I'd go and stand at self-checkout and do, 10 transactions in a row of $100 each. I was like, oh, I guess the limit isn't 400. I guess it's however much I want to do.
Yeah, before they come in, it's like, hey, what are you doing over there? Let me see your ID. You mentioned the Best Buy deals. Yeah, that was some of the better ones that I've seen. Giant had promotions for 5x gas points on most cards. So Best Buy was qualifying. So back then when the rates were like 98% plus, even 99% plus, it was like a full send. I went on a world tour. It's like, oh, let's see how many stores I can get today. Just go north to Wind Creek, Bethlehem, and play some poker at the end of the rainbow after you bought all these gift cards.
Yeah, I mean, I remember also with Best Buy some of the Meijer deals where, because typically Meijer would do, you get 10% back in the form of the Meyer M Perks, which is their, grocery rewards. But then there were times where they would just do a straight 10% off, like immediately, 10% discount on Best Buy. And I know that some people were like flying to Meyer territory up to like Michigan or Illinois, like just to go buy those cars, just because there was so much money or so much potential profit there. It's like, yep, you get 10% off and you can sell the cars at like 97%. And from what I remember, there wasn't much of a limitation on how much you could buy per person, or maybe there was, but you could just keep on going to different locations and buy a ton. So, I remember people doing that. And then there was even one time where I drove from Charlotte, North Carolina down to Columbia, South Carolina, because there was a promotion going on, but it was weird because it was only with Kroger and not Harris Teeter specifically. Or it was I guess it was Kroger and all the other Kroger affiliates excluding Harris Teeter for some reason. So I drove like an hour and a half down to Columbia and just spent the whole day going to the 5 or 6 Krogers that they had down there, buying gift cards and fuel points. And I think I did like 15K or something that day. So people do crazy stuff.
A really awesome hourly when the promotions are very, very good. Yeah, even on the smaller ones, it's like, look, if I'm just doing one store stop and I have an edge of like 7% and I'm able to spend $2,000, I mean, it's like, wow, maybe this store, I was already kind of in that area, so it was a 2 or 3 minute detour. I was in the store for about 5 minutes. It took like 2 or 3 minutes to upload the cards after the fact. So when you're thinking about your time and money, it's just like a full send, very easy decision for me in many of these cases with the good promotions.
Yeah, I had a friend mention to me recently, the way he put it is that if you're already going to a certain store to buy groceries and there's a gift card deal going on that's profitable, like getting paid to go grocery shopping. Essentially, I mean, you make whatever, $50, let's say on average on some of those deals, in one stop, and you're already going there anyway to buy food or whatever. So yeah, kind of just getting paid to go grocery shopping.
A question some have: why sell gift cards to you rather than people just listing gift cards themselves on sites like Raise.com, Card Cash, some other places?
So I mean, with Raise, they charge a pretty large commission percentage if you're not already a bulk seller with them. I think it's like 13% or 15% as far as what they take. So, if you're listing one card or even a few $1,000s of cards and that's it, the deal's probably not going to be profitable. You're just going to be losing money. I mean, you have to be selling a lot of volume consistently every month to be in their bulk seller program and to get the preferred rates as far as the commission percentage, you're getting that lower. As well as you list them essentially on consignment and then you get paid whenever someone buys them, which you don't know how long that would take. So, selling gift cards to me, through my Telegram group, you basically have, a guaranteed buyer for those cards. You know what rate you're going to sell them at, and whether it's going to be profitable or not before you actually participate in it.
So you've been sourcing from many people for several years now, so you're able to get those competitive rates.
Yeah, I mean, I started the group in April of 2020, so it's a little bit over 3 years old at this point. But I mean, yeah, I've just done a lot of work putting together my own network of gift card customers, of end buyers for the cards, so that I'm able to buy them from people and have a slight margin and resell them and make that money. So, but I mean, we've got several hundred people in the group currently and looking to continue growing that number. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the gist of what we do is, giving people an easy way to spend more on their cards, get paid back, and generate more credit card rewards.
Yeah, and I mentioned organization. It's definitely a part of this. You have to keep your cards. You have to be able to find them. And if you're ordering online, what I'm usually doing is just keeping a list of the orders that I made, because sometimes those emails might take a few hours to come in. So there is the organization, there is the patience. Might there be other risks involved with gift card reselling or things people should know?
Yeah, so the main thing that comes to mind for me would be cards that have been, either tampered with or compromised one way or another. So this happens a lot, for example, with the Target deals, where they have the Apple and Target gift card deals in Target in store. For whatever reason, apparently there's like scammers that go around and get the gift cards on the rack, open them, obtain the info, and basically when the card is activated by you, they have, from what I understand, like a bot running that checks when it's been activated, and then they use it as soon as it's been activated or shortly after. And I mean, that can happen really with any in-store deal that you do. I've seen it more commonly with the Apple gift cards at Target. There's also been cases of that happening with Apple gift cards at other places, but for some reason it's primarily at Target that I've seen. So that is a risk. And unfortunately, it's just on the supplier, on the person who bought the cards who would be selling it to us, to check the card thoroughly, do their best to make sure it hasn't been tampered with. But if there is an issue, it would also be on them to resolve it. So either, call the gift card merchant. So in that, if the brand is Apple, like call Apple, or wherever you bought it from, whether that's Kroger, Giant, Target, etc., and see if you can get a resolution from them. A lot of times people have tried that and haven't been able to get, a replacement or a refund, and they've just resorted to actually doing a chargeback on their credit card for that. Or if that doesn't work, people have just lost money because, if they run out of options with that stuff, there's definitely risks there. If you were to also, because like I mentioned previously, we asked that everybody holds on to their cards for a year after submitting them. We have had people that like weren't aware of that or just didn't pay attention to those instructions and like threw away a card after we paid them, and because they assumed like, oh well, I already got paid, I can throw this card away now, and they threw away the card, and we came back and said, hey, like this card is invalid, like we can't use it, and they were like, well, I already threw it away. We're like, well, okay, we're gonna need either a replacement or a refund from you for that. Making mistakes like that is a risk as well. So that's why it's important to read all of the instructions and details thoroughly so that you know exactly what's expected of you if you're participating in the group. And I mean, there's other miscellaneous risks too. So for example, with Kroger, they started shutting down and like blocking Fuel Points accounts last year. It's gotten a little bit better recently, so it's not as bad as it used to be, but they just, I guess, didn't like there's a few factors that went into it, but they didn't like the fact that people were reselling the Fuel Points accounts. In some cases, certain customers were like taking accounts into the negative, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, Kroger started blocking accounts, and in that case, people were losing money because the points weren't able to be used, so we couldn't actually pay them for the points. So yeah, there are, again, a few risks there, and my advice to everyone is just in general, besides making sure that you are paying attention and reading thoroughly all the details and instructions, just also operate within your own risk tolerance, and don't risk more money than you can afford to lose.
Yeah, with the tampered packages, usually we can look on the backs of them, and if like a seal is off or the package seems damaged in some way, then go ahead and buy a different gift card instead. Like I've been at some Staples, this is with the prepaid cards, and there's supposed to be a security seal on the back, but if any of the packages are opened, then okay, well, I'm just going to buy something different. I'm not going to buy this one. Or
and I know
California found like a little slip that was in there. So there were some scammers involved there.
Yeah, I know that one thing that people do specifically with the Apple gift cards, and I guess this might be a good practice just for any gift card brand, but specifically with Apple, people will like actually open because it comes in like the Apple cards come in like a envelope or like I don't know what the right word is for it. Besides
there's like a seal on the bottom that you could tear off and it opens inside.
Yeah, but anyway, people will open that and actually take out the card itself and compare the serial number on the actual card to that envelope, like that outer packaging, because sometimes what the the scammers will do is they'll actually switch the cards. Like they'll put them in a different, envelope for a different card. And so then the serial numbers won't match. So I know a lot of people will actually open the card and check to see if it matches or not. And if it doesn't, that's a pretty obvious sign that the card has been tampered. Even if it does match, that doesn't guarantee, that it hasn't been messed with, but to some extent reduces the perceived probability that it has, been tampered with. So but in the group chat, in the Telegram group, people talk about that. So you can always go in there and ask questions and best practices about that stuff.
Yeah, so a little bit of paying attention to what you're buying, making sure that things are in good order. And on the credit side, as I've mentioned, not hammering new cards really early on, just splitting up those transactions and using different cards. So yeah, there were some interesting promotions in the past where you'd have to do separate transactions where there were $50 gift cards, and maybe you could buy like 5 or 10 of them, depending on what the alleged rules are per visit. But if you use the same card back to back, similar transactions at the same place, you're probably going to get declines. The card's probably going to get frozen. So that's a case where you want to bring the war chest, as I sometimes say, and bring multiple cards with you on the go in order to get these transactions through. Speedway was one of those in the past. That was one of the better ones I'd seen. It was buy a $100 Best Buy gift card and you got a $15 fuel certificate for the future. You can transfer onto a gift card, and then you got Speedway points too. So with the Speedway points, I think it was maybe 4% back in Speedway points. So it was really wild. 19%. And then minus, whatever the Best Buy 100s are going for. It was easily over a 10% edge on each transaction. And some of these locations were willing to sell like $1,500 in Best Buy per stop.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, there's deals like that come up at times that are really profitable. And with some of them, you can do a lot of volume. With some of them, you can't really. And the volume might be limited, but the margin is really good. So some good examples of that are some of the Amex offers that come up. So, I mean, I remember that, on the Tory Burch Amex offers that have been around at certain times, it's like you get 20% back essentially. So you buy $300 gift card, get $60 back. And in our group, we were buying them at 87%, so it's a 7% margin. But, most people don't have a ton of Amex cards. Like, they might have a few, and they might not have that offer on all of them. And then even people who do have a lot of cards, typically, if you just go in and manually add the offer on one, like someone would normally do, it disappears from the other ones. Even though there are, I have seen tricks to get around that and kind of scale that with some different apps that add the offer to a bunch of cards simultaneoly. But yeah, I mean, most of the time it would be people doing, maybe 3 to 5. They would have that offer three to 5 times on their cards, so they would say what they would do it 3 to 5 times. And obviously it helps if you have like a P2 or P3 as well. $300 spend and 7% profit on it. It's good margin, but that in and of itself sometimes isn't super scalable. So it just depends on, again, the person and what their preferences are. And then even with those deals, also depends on if you have to go in store, if you can just buy a gift card online and have it shipped to you. So there's definitely a lot of variables there that determine, whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah, we're recording at the end of June 2023, but my prediction is November, December is going to really, really heat up with the Christmas time gift card deals. Any predictions for that or any thoughts on previous years?
We'll just say, let's wait and see what happens because, sometimes there are deals that they do every year during the holiday season, but you can never be sure. And sometimes there might be deals that you expect that don't happen, or vice versa, things that just come out of nowhere that are really profitable that, we might not expect. So, but yeah, obviously in general, they typically tend to run a lot of really good gift card promotions during November and December each year.
Yeah, November, December typically gets very busy, and then it falls off a cliff in January, February. Gets really slow in January.
Yeah, we have to sometimes wait until mid-February or even, March to really start seeing the good deals again.
Yeah, it's like go on a cruise in January, February, go to Las Vegas, go somewhere, use those miles and points, and then when you're back, the gift card deals will be back at a later time. But you won't be missing much in January, February usually. All right, anything else you'd like to add as we're getting closer to the end? Perhaps contact information, how people can find you?
Well, like I mentioned, towards the beginning, the best way to actually join the group and get started is just using the Telegram group invite links. So I guess we can just have those
in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll just have those there so people can click on those. And yeah, I mean, once you get in, I would suggest checking out the actual group description. So if you join the group and then you like click on the actual QCGC logo within the group, it opens up the group description. And what we have there currently, there's both the Kroger gift card buying guide, which is specific to Kroger, but also has some good like general info just on best practices when buying gift cards and some of the rules that you have to follow. And that's just currently what we have at the moment. Like I mentioned, I am working on some more comprehensive onboarding material for people, but that gives you an idea of how some of the gift card purchasing and reselling works. And then there's also a link to the submission template sheet, which you will need to, read the instructions on there, as well as make your own copy of that sheet that you can use to submit gift cards to us. That's pretty much it. Like we mentioned before, you can kind of do as little or as much as you want. If you're someone that's just super new to this stuff, doesn't really understand it, or feels a little overwhelmed, or like everything seems complicated, I would very much suggest, you could even spend, a few weeks in the group just kind of observing stuff that happens without even participating in any deals yet, if you feel the need to do that, if that's what, makes you feel more comfortable. Once you're ready to get started, just focus on doing one deal. Like just take it one deal at a time. Find one that's really simple and easy to do, and just do that first, right? Do that. Wait to get paid for it, and then say, okay, now let's do it again, and maybe, find something that's a little bit more complicated or requires a little bit more work, and just take it one step at a time. And then, at some point you really get the hang of it, and then you can decide if you really want to do a lot of volume or not.
All right, very good. Any email or social media contacts people can reach out to you?
Yes, as far as email, our main email address currently is contact@vidalibrellc.com. So that's VIDALIBRELLC.com, which is the name of the actual LLC that I use to run this business. So if you have any specific questions or just anything you want to, ask or contact us about, you can reach us through there. I think that email might also be listed in the group description in Telegram too, but yeah, that'd be the best way to get in touch with us.
All right, very good. Anything else?
I don't think so, besides just saying that I really appreciate you having me on, and like I mentioned before, I do definitely plan on making or getting to one of the meetups at some point in the future.
All right, very good. Thanks a lot for coming on, and have a great day, listeners.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for future episodes. Visit hurdygurdytravel.com to contact me, find me on social media, read select episode transcripts, and schedule a free consultation. Support the show through Subscribestar, referral links, and buying from my eBay store. Find this show on many podcast platforms and YouTube, where you can find bonus videos. Supporting me on Subscribestar will give you special perks, including a custom podcast episode, questions answered by upcoming guests, and monthly private one-on-one conversations delving into more advanced topics I don't openly discuss at length in podcast episodes. Visit meetup.com/Philly Miles and Points to learn about Greater Philadelphia travel, credit miles and points meetups I host in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. I hope to see you in person at a future event. Find a link in the show notes. I'll also present at the upcoming conference Zorkfest, which will include social events and sessions educating about miles, points, and gambling. Find more information at zorkfest.com, that's ZORKFEST.com, and stay tuned for an upcoming episode with the event host, Michael Trager, who will chat with me about the event taking place in Lake Tahoe on October 13th, 14th, and 15th, 2023. Listen to my other podcast, the Stoic Solutions Podcast, found at stoicsolutionspodcast.com. My podcast guests and I offer practical wisdom for everyday life, inspired by the ancient tradition of Stoic philosophy from Greece and Rome. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.